Volume 1, Book 5, number 274. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. Once the call, Qama, for the prayer was announced and the rows were straightened. Allah's apostle came out, and when he stood up at his masala, he remembered that he was junub. Then he ordered us to stay at our places and went to take a bath and then returned with water dropping from his head. He said, Allahu Akbar, and we all offered the prayer with him. Volume 1, Book 5, number 275. Narrated by Maimuna. I placed water for the bath of the Prophet and screened him with a garment. He poured water over his hands and washed them. After that he poured water with his right hand over his left and washed his private parts, rubbed his hands with earth and washed them, rinsed his mouth, washed his nose by putting water in it and then blowing it out, and then washed his face and forearms. He poured water over his head and body. He then shifted from that place and washed his feet. I gave him a piece of cloth, but he did not take it and came out removing the water from his body with both his hands. Volume 1, Book 5, number 276. Narrated by Aisha. Whenever any one of us was junub, she poured water over her head thrice with both her hands and then rubbed the right side of her head with one hand and rubbed the left side of the head with the other hand. Volume 1, Book 5, number 277. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, the people of Bani Israel used to take bath naked, all together, looking at each other. The Prophet Moses used to take a bath alone. They said, by Allah, nothing prevents Moses from taking a bath with us except that he has a scrotal hernia. So once Moses went out to take a bath and put his clothes over a stone, and then that stone ran away with his clothes. Moses followed that stone saying, my clothes, O stone! My clothes, O stone! Till the people of Bani Israel saw him and said, by Allah, Moses has got no defect in his body. Moses took his clothes and began to beat the stone. Abu Hurairah added, by Allah, there are still 6 or 7 marks present on the stone from that excessive beating. Narrated Abu Hurairah. The Prophet said, when the Prophet Job, Ayub, was taking a bath naked, golden locusts began to fall on him. Job started collecting them in his clothes. His Lord addressed him, O Job, haven't I given you enough so that you are not in need of them? Job replied, yes, by your honor, power, but I cannot dispense with your blessings. Volume 1, Book 5, number 278. Narrated by Hani bint Abi Talib. I went to Allah's apostle in the year of the conquest of Mecca and found him taking a bath while Fatima was screening him. The Prophet asked, who is it? I replied, I am Hani. Volume 1, Book 5, number 279. Narrated by Maimuna. I screened the Prophet while he was taking a bath of janaba. He washed his hands, poured water from his right hand over his left and washed his private parts. Then he rubbed his hand over a wall or the earth, and performed ablution similar to that for the prayer, but did not wash his feet. Then he poured water over his body, shifted from that place, and washed his feet. Volume 1, Book 5, number 280. Narrated by Salama, the mother of the believers. Sulam, the wife of Abu Talha, came to Allah's apostle and said, O Allah's apostle, verily Allah is not shy of telling you the truth. Is it necessary for a woman to take a bath after she has a wet dream, nocturnal sexual discharge? Allah's apostle replied, yes, if she notices a discharge. Volume 1, Book 5, number 281. Narrated by Abu Hurairah. The Prophet came across me in one of the streets of Medina, and at that time I was junub. So I slipped away from him and went to take a bath. On my return the Prophet said, "O Abu Huraira, where have you been?" I replied, "I was junub, so I disliked to sit in your company." The Prophet said, "Subhanallah, a believer never becomes impure." Volume 1, Book 5, number 282. Narrated by Anas bin Malik. The Prophet used to visit all his wives in one night, and he had 9 wives at that time. Volume 1, Book 5, number 283. Narrated by Abu Huraira. Allah's apostle came across me and I was junub. He took my hand and I went along with him till he sat down. I slipped away, went home and took a bath. When I came back, he was still sitting there. He then said to me, "O Abu Huraira, where have you been?" I told him about it. The Prophet said, "Subhanallah, O Abu Huraira, a believer never becomes impure." Volume 1, Book 5, number 284. Narrated by Abu Salama. I asked Aisha, "Did the Prophet use to sleep while he was junub?" She replied, "Yes, but he used to perform ablution before going to bed." Volume 1, Book 5, number 285. Narrated by Umar bin al-Khattab. I asked Allah's apostle, "Can any one of us sleep while he is junub?" He replied, "Yes, if he performs ablution, he can sleep while he is junub." Volume 1, Book 5, number 286. Narrated by Aisha. Whenever the Prophet intended to sleep while he was junub, he used to wash his private parts and perform ablution like that for the prayer. Volume 1, Book 5, number 287. Narrated by Abdullah. Umar asked the Prophet, "Can any one of us sleep while he is junub?" He replied, "Yes, if he performs ablution." Volume 1, Book 5, number 288. Narrated by Abdullah bin Umar. Umar bin al-Khattab told Allah's apostle, "I became junub at night." Allah's apostle replied, "Perform ablution after washing your private parts and then sleep." Volume 1, Book 5, number 289. Narrated by Hisham. As the following Hadith 290. Volume 1, Book 5, number 290. Narrated by Abu Huraira. The Prophet said, "When a man sits in between the 4 parts of a woman and did the sexual intercourse with her, bath becomes compulsory." Volume 1, Book 5, number 291. Narrated by Zaid bin Khalid aj-Juhani. I asked Uthman bin Affan about a man who engaged in the sexual intercourse with his wife but did not discharge. Uthman replied, "He should perform ablution like that for the prayer after washing his private parts." Uthman added, "I heard that from Allah's apostle." I asked Ali bin Abi Talib, Az Zubair bin al-Awam, Talib bin Ubaidullah and Ubay bin Kabi, and I gave the same reply. Abu Aylab said that he had heard that from Allah's apostle. This order was cancelled later on, so one has to take a bath. See Hadith Nos 188. Volume 1, Book 5, number 292. Narrated by Ubay bin Kabi. I asked Allah's apostle about a man who engages in sexual intercourse with his wife but does not discharge. He replied, "He should wash the parts which comes in contact with the private parts of the woman, perform ablution and then pray." Abu Abdullah said, "Taking a bath is safer and is the last order."